So in keeping with the topic of time management, I want to talk about two pretty well-known concepts. Those are urgency and importance. Now, I'm sure everyone's heard of them, particularly if you're at all familiar with time management, but I don't know how well people can evaluate whether the tasks and activities in their lives are urgent or important. So really basically, an urgent task is something that demands your immediate attention, but may or may not have consequences down the line. Important, on the other hand, is the flip of that. Those are any kind of activities or tasks that will have serious consequences. They may be short-term or they may be, say, 1, 2, 3, 5 years out. Now, the difficulty is that a lot of times when something is urgent, it also feels as though it's important. But the key there is to know, well, what will happen actually, especially long-term, if I don't do this? So take, for example, you are considering buying some new clothes. Maybe summer's coming up, you want to have something that matches with the season. And there's an 80% off sale, Macy's, just that weekend. So if you miss it, you're going to have to buy those clothes at 5 times the price. Now, is this urgent? Yes, because if you don't deal with it immediately, the opportunity is going to be gone. Is it important? Well, ask yourself, 2 or 3 years down the line, if you don't spend $100 at Macy's and decide maybe not to buy any new summer clothes or buy them somewhere else at a slightly higher price, how much of an impact is that going to have in your life? You may then conclude that even though it feels like something that needs to get done now, it's actually urgent but not important. On the other hand, I think the converse of this, important but not urgent, is a little more intuitive. That's things like making sure you drink enough water every day, go to bed at a decent time, go out for a jog or whatever it is you do for exercise regularly. These are the types of things that if you mess up once or if you start a bit late, 5 years down the line, it's not going to make a difference. But if you continue to do so, because it doesn't demand your attention right now, and a year passes, 2 years pass, it's going to have an effect. So really, I'd say it's pretty important to understand that, and then you can create from that what's called an Eisenhower matrix, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a future video. But the Eisenhower matrix, for those of you who are not familiar, is purportedly started by President Eisenhower, where he created 4 quadrants by making a horizontal line and a vertical line. And each of those represents a combination of urgency and importance. So you've got important and urgent in one quadrant, and important, not urgent in another, urgent but not important, and then not urgent but not important. And a lot of people mess up that last one. They barely put anything in there because they think they're supposed to just put the things that they're supposed to do or that they need to do in this quadrant, when actually it's supposed to cover every activity you do. So if you scroll through social media, if you watch streaming services or YouTube, if you play video games, things like this, those should also be included, because the importance of this is looking, well, where does it seem like most of my tasks land? And ideally, you want them to land in the important but not urgent. And I'll talk a bit more about that in another video, but hope that was helpful.